Hey there, kiddos, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and that you are having a great day. And in today's video, I'm sitting back in my very comfortable chair, relaxing and having a little conversation with all of you guys about video games, ownership, Sony. In case you guys haven't heard, there has been some pretty interesting news coming out in the last day or so from PlayStation. They've announced that they are going to be putting a stop to this physical ownership thing that plagues the video game market. PlayStation has announced that by 2028, they will no longer be producing physical discs for their video games, which means going forward, if you are a PlayStation fan for whatever reason, if you are a Sony fan for whatever reason, and you would like to play a video game on the newest Sony console, the PlayStation 6, coming soon to a game store near you, you will no longer be able to physically own the game. Not possible. Not even a code on a disc. Instead, all video games for the Sony consoles going forward will be digital licenses that you will effectively be renting from Sony. And make no mistake, this is renting. When you purchase a digital license, you are not the person who owns the game. PlayStation owns the game. The publisher owns the game. And they can remove it from you, from your library at any time for any reason or no reason at all. In fact, I think just a week ago or so, a whole bunch of digital media was removed from Sony's media library. A whole bunch of movies and I think some TV shows even. People paid for those and they're gone now. I think Terminator 2 came up a lot in online discussions. And that's wild. It's wild to me that anyone would be okay with this idea of removing the ability to physically own your media. Because, as I've said before on this channel, as I've said before very many times, ownership is extremely important, in my opinion. Not just because I despise the idea of some far-off company just yanking away something that you enjoy for some arbitrary reason. That is a big reason. Don't get me wrong. But the other half of it is the money and time spent earning the things you are enjoying. Okay? If a new video game costs $80, okay, and you're lucky enough to make $20 an hour, that means it would take you 4 hours of your time to afford that video game. Now, if that $80 video game is a physical release, you can go out and purchase it and throw it on your shelf and play it whenever you want, however you want, for as long as you want. And Sony or Nintendo or Microsoft can sit in a corner. They can sit in their little publisher cuck chair corner while you play their game. Wonderful. And from the moment you earned that money, to the moment you spent that money, to the moment you used that money to play a game that you enjoyed, everything was in your control. It was your time, which turned into your money, which turned into your video game. But under a digital license framework, that is no longer the case. Now your time turns into your money, turning into Sony's video game, or Nintendo's video game, or Microsoft's video game. Yes, I know that digital licenses are nothing new. They've been around for quite a while. In fact, the Steam library is exclusively digital licensing, from what I understand. But the appeal of Steam is that, well, PC gaming is so diverse. There's so much there. A lot of it is offline. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And there's no need to go out and get a specialized console for it. As long as your computer has the bare minimum specs required for the games in question that you wish to enjoy, you can probably get quite a few games for it. The big appeal for consoles has always been, well, their exclusive libraries. I remember, actually, get some good examples over here. I remember when the PlayStation 2 was new, and I remember games like Destroy All Humans, or God of War 2, or Prince of Persia, which not actually that good. Physical games that you could only play if you owned them and their associated console. And you would have to go out and physically get the media that you wanted for the console you wanted. And yeah, sure, there were some cross console games. There were some games that were on multiple consoles. The big example I always come back to is Soul Calibur 2, which was on every major console for a bit. And each version had an exclusive dude. The Nintendo GameCube version had Link from The Legend of Zelda in it. And that's cool as hell. And I think the Xbox version had Spawn, which is also cool as hell. But for the most part, the appeal of the console is then in the exclusive library for the console. And if you are a publisher, if you're a game publisher, and you have an option to choose between pushing your game out onto a digital library that most people have access to. PC gaming is one of the most popular ways to play video games, and it's always growing. You could choose to push your new game out onto the PC gaming marketplace or onto the Sony marketplace as an exclusive, knowing that there's going to be less and less demand, less and less appeal to a Sony game. Which one would you choose? Now let's flip that to the other side of the equation. If you were someone out there looking to buy huge quotation marks, a new video game, and you had an option between buying a new video game on the one of the most well-received, well-liked, and most populated online video game markets of all time, Steam, or choosing to spend $500+ in some places for the new PlayStation. It's going to be the PlayStation 6. It's going to be the PlayStation 6. You're going to spend $500, $700 probably for the PS6. And in both cases, you get a game that you don't own. The difference is that one comes with the added benefit of a huge library, internet connectivity, and a whole slew of other games, whereas the other one cost the game and an extra console, and not as large of an in-depth library because PlayStation has no games. I don't see the appeal of it. I don't see the demand, the desire. And you have to wonder what goes on in some of these executives' heads as they push this whole "you will own nothing and be happy" narrative. Because let me tell you something. When Nintendo announced the Switch 2, it was already a very underwhelming console to me. Alright? But when I found out, and I made a video about this, I think, when I found out that the Switch 2 game carts for a lot of games would not be actual games on the cart, it would be a download code, and that there was no purpose behind anything, and Nintendo could shut your console down remotely and remove your data remotely, or whatever the hell it is they do, I made it very clear that I had absolutely no interest in purchasing a Nintendo Switch 2. I have the exact same thoughts, but worse, when it comes to whatever the 2028 Sony console will be. Because I'm quite attached to Nintendo. I don't think that's a big secret. I am a big fan of many Nintendo franchises. I am a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda. And I play, not often, but I do play enough on many Nintendo consoles. I have very little attachment to PlayStation as a console. Yes, it has some wonderful games. In fact, the PlayStation 1 has one of my favorite games of all time, and hopefully I'll be talking about that here on the channel soon. And the PlayStation 4 has a game that made me go out and buy a PlayStation 4. Have I talked about Bloodborne on the channel before with you guys? I absolutely fucking love that game. It got me to purchase a PlayStation 4. It was that fucking good. But beyond that, I don't have any interest in looking forward. This news, to me, when I read the article, the PlayStation blog, okay, what I got out of it was, Uncle Frank, you will not be purchasing any more PlayStation video games after 2028. That's what the article said to me. I know that there were other words there. I know that there was some kind of message they were trying to put out about physical media or whatever. But all I got out of it was, hey, I can effectively ignore PlayStation going forward. Neat. And it's not for nothing. You know, a lot of people have been wondering about the future of the gaming market, the future of gaming as a hobby, as an experience. And a big part of that is cost. And let me tell you something. I went over it already, but let me tell you something. A PlayStation 5, the current generation Sony console, costs $400 to $500, depending on its condition and all that jazz. The best deals you can find online, whatever. New games for the PlayStation 5 cost anywhere between $60 and $100, depending on whether you're getting a decent game or if you're smart enough to purchase the digital-only, physical, non-existent GTA 6. A PlayStation 2. One of the best consoles of all time, even if, you know, I mean, like, prefer Nintendo, but PS2 is still pretty great. A PlayStation 2 costs about $100 and has one of the greatest video game libraries ever assembled. Genuinely, in my opinion, only beaten out by perhaps the Super Nintendo in terms of its depth. Because the Super Nintendo also has a lot of fucking good shit on it, okay? Just so we're clear. The library for the PlayStation 2 includes hundreds of video games, some of which, to this day, have not been surpassed in their respective categories in terms of overall art presentation, like Shadow of the Colossus, the hack and slash genre that is God of War and Devil May Cry, some great RPGs on the system, some duds too, don't get me wrong. Final Fantasy X is on the PlayStation 2, and that alone is enough to really drag down the quality of the console, don't get me wrong, but it's got some real bangers. And this is not just a PlayStation 2 thing. A GameCube runs what, $130 these days? Sure, a lot of GameCube games, a lot of the better ones are hyper expensive. But they're expensive because they're some of the best video games ever put out there. Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Metroid Prime, Pikmin, Pokemon, Coliseum XD, Yellow Darkness. Some really good stuff. And what? A Super Nintendo costs maybe $150 max, $100 on average. A DS costs $70, has a huge library, some of the coolest games ever. A Dreamcast, I think. Genuinely, I don't know what the price of a Dreamcast is, but I purchased mine for about $50, and I would be very hard. It would not be easy for me to believe it's more than like $110, $120. I think you can pick up a Wii for like $50 on average. A big worry that a lot of people have is the affordability of the future of gaming. And I'm here to say that not only is there a massive deluge, a library, a grand historical archive of some of the best video games ever produced, that will ever be produced, available in the past, but they're cheaper than what's going to come out in the future. Future game consoles are only going to get more expensive. And yes, sooner or later, retro game consoles will become too expensive for the average person to pick up. But right now, they're very affordable. Right now, you can choose to spend You can choose to buy one PlayStation 5 or 3 or 4 PS2s and just enjoy your PS2. Collect PS2s. But yeah, there's, you know, huge libraries of games out there. And yes, some retro games are disgustingly expensive. I'm looking at you, Shantae. I love you, Shantae, but I do not enjoy you being $700. I would like to own you someday again. But I don't want to pay $700 for you. Crazy stuff. What I'm trying to say here today is I'm very disappointed that Sony just seems to continuously put out L after L. Very loud truck zipping by. I'm not angry at Sony. I want to make that very clear. I don't hate Sony. I want to make that clear. But I am very disappointed with them because they put out an article that says, don't buy our games. Buy. Don't play our console because you won't be able to own anything for our console going forward. And I think that's really unfortunate and short-sighted. And it's going to, in my opinion, okay, what I think is going to happen is it's going to drive away people from future PlayStation consoles. That's all. And I think that's unfortunate. There are definitely some major gaming fumbles that have happened throughout the last 50 years. You know, the Atari Jaguar, the 32X, Sega CD, the Virtual Boy. But all of those bad consoles, do I still have the Gamecom line around somewhere? I've got the Gamecom line. Can you guys see it? It's like right back there. All of those terrible consoles from the past that have sucked some major ass. Some of them being featured on AVGN because of how bad they were and how bad a lot of their games were. You know what they all had? They all had games you could fucking own. Sure, the Jaguar sucks dick. It's got no fucking good games on it. But you can still own it. And it's games. Sure, the Virtual Boy was a headache-inducing nightmare red abomination station, but you can still own it. All of its games. The Gamecom is a shitty PDA that plays like a provably worse Game Boy and has one color gradient, gray. But hey, you can still own all 6 games for it. It's absolutely wild that we live in a world where the Gamecom exists and it's not somehow the worst console. Because the worst console is going to be whatever PlayStation puts out in the near future after they've gone discless. Because it's already a joke right now that PlayStation has no games. But whatever the future PlayStation console is, PS6, it will actually have no games. And I think that's really sad. But hey, what do you guys think? Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me. I'm always curious about your guys' opinion. Let me know in the comment section below. Please like, share, subscribe, and, check out the Discord, the Patreon, the TCG player link, all that jazz. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.